Okay, so we will start. We will start with the 2019 question paper. So I hope you already know the pattern of the question paper. You will have two sections, section A, section B. And first section is about the theory part. Then you will have the case studies. There will be 5, 6 case studies. Okay, and then there will be 12, 13 theory questions will be there. So it will be like 130, 120 or 120, 130. This will be the range. Okay. So now there won't be any choice like your optional. All the questions are compulsory. And this is the most scoring area actually. This is very scoring. The paper 1 section A theory, and more than that, you just need to write for 10 mark. Okay. So if you are clear with the concept, and we have done with almost all the theoretical parts, if you see the question paper, you will understand maybe one or two we might not have seen, but that we have the restrictions and limitation. Otherwise, everything is very common. So if you know something, and writing in 150 words is not going to be a big deal. And that's the advantage that you're actually going to get when it comes to ethics paper. And that's how you need to solve it. And you should be in a position to score around 140 plus mark in ethics. And that's your strategy. Okay, so treat your ethics paper also like your optional. So if you're targeting 280 plus or 300 in your optional, you have to target almost the same in your ethics as well as your essay also. Okay, so we'll start with the first question. We will do the theory questions today, and tomorrow we'll do the case study. Like that, we will complete the last 5 question papers if possible, so that we can cover everything which was asked so far, and it will be a good revision of what all things that we have done so far also. And we will see the different types of case studies which has been asked by UPSC. And after that, if required, we will take up some other case studies and we'll discuss. Okay, now you see, this is a question which we have already discussed, the basic principles of public life, various values associated with public life. Okay, so from civil servants point of view, we have discussed. From governance point of view, we have discussed. From probity in governance, we have discussed. Okay, in fact, this question also we have discussed, if you remember. So can you tell me what are the basic principles of public life, or what you will write here? You can simply directly write the Nolan committee recommendation or the Nolan principles here. Any doubt in that? We have discussed that. So I'll just refer to that Nolan principles. I'm not going to discuss that in detail. If you remember, when we discussed about Nolan principle, each and every concepts, what are they? If you see quickly, what are the Nolan principles? Selflessness, right? Selfless duty. And then we have discussed about openness, means transparency. And then we have discussed about objectivity. Objectivity means there should not be any personal biases in the decision making and in the implementation of the decision. Honesty. Okay, so then accountability. Accountability means answerability. And then integrity. Okay, so integrity means doing what you say, like extreme level of honesty, consistent level of honesty. And then leadership, you have to lead from the front. So these are the Nolan principles. Now it is very easy for you. Now once you know these principles, you can select any from this. You are asked to write 3, so you don't want to write about all these. You can briefly mention in the first paragraph about Nolan principles. You can give various values in public service, and you can say this is something which is very important. Selflessness. Okay, integrity is very important. Leadership is very important. So to me, out of this, these are the 3 most important values. If you wish, you can also write apart from this also. You can write. It is not necessary that you need to take from this. Since we have discussed about this and we clearly know about this, I'm referring to this. You can also talk about compassion. So if you remember, I have stressed on this and I've told you what is the difference between sympathy, empathy, compassion. The degree of activity will be more in compassion when it comes to the difference between empathy and compassion. Okay, so here you can write about compassion. What else you can write? One of the most important values that you can write is impartiality. Okay, now you see these elements are somewhat covered in objectivity. When you talk about objectivity, it is actually a kind of impartiality only. But since tolerance, very important virtue and value, we have discussed this also. So in fact, all these we have covered, and some more values we have covered. If you remember, when we discussed about probity in governance, I've discussed about some of the principles which is given by World Bank. So that also you can accommodate here, and most of them are overlapping. So tell me now, you don't want to tell me, it's up to you now. You know all these values and you know how to explain each of these. You need to be in a position to write your own example rather than, writing any example from any of the textbook. Okay, selfless duty, integrity, leadership. Okay, so these are the three I would pick. Okay, so then you can, this compassion also I'll take. Instead of any one of this, I can go with compassion. That will be a really, but since selflessness is there, an element of compassion is automatically coming. Okay, so see, it's not that the restriction here is three important principles that you need to select. So we have too much of public service values. Okay, out of this, Nolan principles, Nolan committee is talking about something. So apart from that, also there are many, like what you can see here. This compassion that we have discussed will come somewhere here, but the objectivity that we have discussed will come here. That is part of public service value, which is part of Nolan committee also. Now it's up to you. It is not necessary that you need to take all from Nolan committee, right? Various committees are there. You can discuss about any of the three. So it's a very simple question, and I hope you will not face any problem with respect to this. I don't think that you need any more discussion with respect to this particular topic. Okay, now, second question, what do you understand by the term public servant? Reflect on the expected role of public servant. Something which is very open and direct question. So expected role of public servant, you should be in a position to write. So what is a public servant? If you want a technical definition, I'll give you the technical definition. Public servant is defined in the Prevention of Corruption Act. So I'll give you that definition. We haven't discussed about that definition. So if you wish to, you can just take down section 2C. Section 2C of the Prevention of Corruption Act actually define the public servant as, just write one line over there, a person in the service or pay of the government or remunerated by the government for performance of public duty. That means if you are paid by government for the performance of any public duty, you are a public servant. One more, a person in the service or pay of a local authority. A person in the service or pay of a local authority. Now see, if you don't want to define based on this, now it is very difficult for you to remember such kind of definition. So what you can say is the person who's drawing salary or the remuneration or the pay from the government in performing the public duty. That's what you can understand as public servant. So the first part is like that, it is done, right? What do you understand by public servant? Means the person who's drawing salary or pay from the government in performing some public duty. Okay, so appointed or elected to the public office for performing some public duty. Then this part is very much subjective. Okay, now if you want a theoretical answer, I'll talk about Weber. In fact, before also they have discussed or asked a question about Weber. So according to Weber, the expected roles of public servant. First thing is, okay, there is a procedure. So the procedure has to be followed. In fact, rule of law need to be followed in letter and spirit. So the procedure established by law has to be followed. So one of the most important expected role of a public servant is the procedure has to be followed. Strict adherence to the procedure. Okay, then commitment to the purpose of the office. Okay, and yeah, then see, this is very open. These are the two important concepts or values that Weber is talking about, or the expected role of the public servant, and also developing professional relations with the colleagues. Now, so if you see, for some of you, it may be difficult to remember this. Some of you, it may be easy because your optional is public administration and anyway you are studying that. So this is something which is familiar to you. But otherwise also, if you look into the role of a public servant, a common man's point of view is what you need to write. It is not expected that whatever is given by Weber or any other thinker, you need to write exactly in the same way. Okay, so if you see the code of ethics, the code of conduct, we have already discussed about the difference between code of conduct and code of ethics. So one of the most important role of a public servant is basically to ensure rule of law. Okay, a rule of law has to be strictly followed. Nobody is above the law. Everybody and everything has to work within the law. So that is the most important role of a public servant. Second, objectivity and transparency. Maintaining objectivity. That means, in simple terms, impartiality. Okay, and there should not be any personal bias or favor like that. Objectivity and transparency. Transparency means openness. Okay, and then effective and efficient use of public resources. It could be public funds. So effective and efficient use of resources. Resources means the funds. Okay, so this is part of code of ethics. But see, even if you're not writing about the code of ethics or according to Weber, etc., you know this. These are commonsensical knowledge only. Maybe this thing you ignore. Procedure have to be followed. That's the reason why public officials is required. The permanent staffs and bureaucracy, this setup is required. Otherwise, anybody can come, anybody can get the work done, and it's over, right? So there should be, a continuation. So a procedure established by law and the rule of law has to be followed. That's the most important role, which is actually expected from the civil servant. Any doubt here? Okay, now you may feel like there will be a lot of possibility of adding more and more concepts and things here. You can add that, but understand, we need to write for how many words? We need to write maximum 150 words. But even though in the question which is given 150 words, you should be ideally writing about 125 to 130 words maximum. Otherwise, you will not be able to complete this paper. It is going to be very lengthy paper, so that, approaching very strategically, then only you can solve this question paper in time. And if you solve in time, if you attempt all the question, then only you're going to get the mark. In case if you're missing one or two questions, you may think that one question is missed out, but I have done well in other questions, then that is not good. Each and every question, it doesn't matter, the quality might be compromised, but every question has to be attempted in your paper. All right, so that's how we will proceed with ethics as well as optional also. No, in that, for that matter, any paper, you have to complete the questions. Even if you don't know, you have to complete the paper. Okay, what about the third one? Effective utilization of public funds is crucial to meet the development goals. So this is again very subjective. So you have to effectively utilize the public funds. In fact, I've told you one of the role of the public servant. So you can write in that way also. For that, public servants are there, bureaucracy is there, administrative officers are there. They have to take care of that. Okay, let's see the question. Critically examine the, okay, here they're asking about the, see, you have to understand the question clearly because you only have 150 words. Don't beat around the bush. See the question which is asked. The reasons is what you need to highlight here. Reason for underutilization and misutilization of public funds and their implication. So you need to talk about the reasons and you need to talk about the implications. What is the impact which is going to see in the society? So what will be the impact? Effective utilization of the public fund is not there. So here they are saying it is crucial to meet developmental goals. So impact directly from here you can write. What is the impact which is going to be? The developmental goals will be compromised. That is the impact. Direct impact that you can see from the question. Apart from that, whatever is coming to your mind and whatever you feel like, you can write over there. Okay, so here the main problem is poor allocation of fund, maybe without knowledge. Okay, and also you will see this fund may not be utilized for a long time. Even if you talk about this MP fund, etc., long time they won't utilize, but by the end of the year they try to finish it off somehow. So that's what the March rush, right? End of the month there will be a rush. So they don't know, and they are not trying to use it productively. In this rush they will do something but may not be productive. Okay, so that is actually the reason. Poor allocation, mismanagement, etc. These are the reasons for, they're asking about reasons, right? Underutilization and or misutilization of fund. Okay, so this is how your answer look like, no? So they're asking for the reasons for underutilization. This is the reason. Then the second part of the question is, what is the impact or the implication? Implication is, it is compromising the developmental goals. And there, if you want to make specific, you can write, okay, what is actually going to happen with PSUs? What is actually going to happen with the social sector objectives? What is going to happen with poverty elevation, unemployment scenario? All these you can write specific also. So this is how this question need to be answered. Okay. But briefly, if you want, if possible, you can define what is public fund also. If you have some good knowledge in polity, you can, or even if you don't have knowledge, I hope you might be, at least you might have some knowledge about Consolidated Fund of India, Contingency Fund of India, etc. So you can say any expenses or utilization of public fund means utilization of fund from these funds. Okay. It should be based on some ethical principles. It should be based on some doctrines. It should be based on some a professional management. It should be based on, proper allocation, so proper planning. But the absence of all these is actually the reasons. The question is asked about reasons. So write the definition of this, then tell the reasons, then tell the implications. Okay, so what could be the reasons? What else you can add here? Technical.
Can we add a corruption here? Can we add corruption here?
Corruption you can add. Technical reasons, technical know-how you can write. Okay, or lack of knowledge, technical aspect, knowledge, expertise. Okay, and then obviously laziness or lack of will. Okay, so dedication to service, absence of dedication to service. Okay, all these are the reasons. If you want, you can write. And this one I've told you, expenditure rush, March rush. Corruption, you can write diversion of fund. Diversion of the resources you can write. Okay, so that is also one of the reasons why it is misutilized. So what are the implications? As we have discussed, as it is given in the question itself, you don't have much headache to write this. Developmental goals will be compromised. And also, it is going to affect the work culture of the organization. It spoils the entire ethical framework and the work culture of the organization. Okay. And it also questions the honesty and integrity of the officers who are honest. So they are also will get demotivated over a period of time. So these are a few impacts which you can write, implications. Okay. So this is again a very subjective question. Non-performance of duty by a public servant is a form of corruption. Do you agree with this view? Obviously, you will say you will agree with this view, right? You are not performing a duty means you are not doing the job. You are not doing the job and you are getting the salary means what? It is a kind of gratification. It's a kind of illegal gratification. It's a gain, right? Illegal gratification, and that's actually part of corruption also. That will in fact come under the definition of the corruption. Okay, so otherwise you can use the ethical principles also. Performance of duty. What are the ethical principles which is related to performance of duty that we have discussed? We have discussed about Kantian deontology, right? Kantian principles we have discussed. We have also discussed about Gandhian concept of duties and rights. Okay, so both are in fact almost same only, Kantian and Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi's principles. Then public servant is supposed to perform the duty that is as part of his code of conduct. Okay, so these are the dimensions which you can write as the rather than code of conduct, you can write code of ethics. So ethically also he have to perform the duty. Okay, now I'll give you one definition here. Corruption is the abuse of power for private gain. That is one thing. That is common definition. Apart from that, You see, it may be due to omission or commission of certain act or duty. So here, this word is very important. Omission or commission of certain act or duty. So commission means you can understand you are doing something and you are getting something out of it. Illegal gratification is there. So that is directly corruption. For not doing also, you can get something, right? And that is also part of corruption. Like you are not doing any duty or you are not doing anything to anyone. So somebody is asking you just to keep silent, I will do this. So that is also kind of corrupt. That is part of definition only. So the first part, if you see, corruption is the abuse of power for private gain. Abuse of power for personal gain. Now here, it may not be connected with any other person, but this is also for personal gain only. You are getting the personal gain, you are getting the salary without doing anything. Okay, that omission part is also there. So as per the definition also, it is actually corruption. Okay. Now, what are the implications? So what they're asking here, let's see the questions. Yeah. It's corruption. Now you can also talk about the implications or the impact. It will affect the entire work culture. So this is very important. It will affect the work culture of the entire organization, entire department, and it leads to further corruption. Everybody will try to do that, right? And it will affect the public trust also of the bureaucracy. Public trust upon bureaucracy will also be lost, and it will ultimately will hurt or affect the reputation of that public servant also. Okay. And this person who's not doing any duty at this point of time, there is a possibility that he can involve in the collusive bribery also later. If not coercive bribery, at least collusive bribery. I hope you know the difference between collusive and coercive corruption. We have discussed that many times, right? Collusive means A and B, they are in agreement that A will do some favor, B will pay something. So this is collusive, and it is very difficult to contain this. Okay, coercive means for getting some service or for getting anything. So for example, village office, it's a kind of extortion. You are asking that poor people to give some 100 rupee, 200 rupee for a birth certificate, etc. That is coercive. And in the definition of corruption, both are coming, but the chances of conviction in this case is very less because there is no complainant. Who is the complainant, right? So here there may be possibility, but still the problem is with the lack of conviction. Now again, if you see, imagine there is a possibility, non-performance of duty. A doctor, a government surgeon, he's saying that he's getting a call at 12 o'clock. He's supposed to come and he's supposed to take care of the patient, and the patient is about to die, and this doctor is not coming. Forget about 12 o'clock or at any point of time. He's not coming. It's a kind of murder because his duty is not performing duty. It's not even corruption. It is much more than that, right? When you see from the ethical point of view, it's a murder. Okay, now this one, 3A. This will be easy for you. Constitutional morality. You know what is morality, right? So it's all about values. So when it comes to constitutional morality, it's all about constitutional values. So tell me, what are the most important constitutional values? And what do you mean by constitutional morality? That is related to the constitutional values, upholding the constitutional values in letter and spirit. So it is the duty of the public servant. It is duty of the entire government system. It is the duty of the courts. Okay. So judiciary and everybody have to work for that. How does one uphold constitutional morality? So these are two parts in this question. So constitutional morality is something which you need to explain first. So for that, you need to talk about the constitutional values. What are the most important constitutional values? Social justice. Okay, or you can talk from the perspective of preamble. That alone is enough for you. What all most important points have mentioned, or what are the most important values which is enshrined in the constitution or in the preamble? You can talk about sovereignty. You can talk about secularism. You can talk about democracy, sovereign, socialist, secular democracy, secularism, sovereignty, all this, justice, equality, fundamental rights, fraternity. Okay, fundamental duties also. So all these are what you mean by constitutional values. Okay, so when we discuss about constitutional morality, adherence to the values or the norms of the constitution, not only in paper but also in practice, right? So if you see the Shabarimala case, value of till then it was just in paper, equality, right? But now that is in practice because of judicial intervention. Or you can talk about Aadhaar, you can talk about triple talaq, all these are examples. That means it goes beyond the constitution and will implement it in letter and spirit totally. So it's about the practical application. Okay, there's values of social justice, sovereignty, equality. Everywhere everybody should be treated equally, so it's a practical application. Okay, so from what is the source? Mainly the source is the preamble and mostly the part 3 of the constitution or fundamental rights. There's a source. Okay, so constitutional morality means the main aim is that the rights and the dignity of any individual should not be compromised. Okay, and it also acts as a check upon the high functionaries. Okay, so just now I've told you that everybody have to work within the law, rule of law have to be followed. So even the high functionaries, the top level bureaucrats, and everybody have to follow the law of the land. So it is ensuring equality. Now, this is a very simple question only, crisis of conscience. See, these terms, you need to have a very clear idea. What is the actual meaning of this term? For example, integrity. It looks very simple. You may think that you will be in a position to write. In fact, conscience was a direct question which was asked in 2013. Just conscience, that's it. So you should be in a position to write. That's the reason why I've told you each and every word in your lexicon, which we have discussed, which I've told you to follow. Each and every word you should have an idea. At least one line you should know. Then you can develop. So if you know the meaning of consciousness, what do you mean by conscience? It is the inner voice, your inner voice, what your inner self say to do or about a particular situation, right? It is the guiding principles from inside. So it is a guiding inner voice. Guiding from within. Now, what is this ethical dilemma? When something is guiding you from within and you need to do something against it, that is an ethical dilemma. Not ethical dilemma is not the question. Here the question is crisis of conscience. So crisis of conscience is also the same, right? When from within you want to do something, but in actual practice you may have to do the different. For example, your senior is asking you to do something, but you think that it is not ethical, so it should not be done. But since your senior have told you, you are doing that. Okay, for example, you are a police officer and your senior have told you to arrest somebody. Okay, and it is very clear to you that he have done some heinous crime, and if you beat him he will tell the truth. So but you don't want to beat him, but you are doing that. So that is a crisis of conscience. I hope you got this. So there's an example which you can write. Okay, there's clear case of ethical dilemma. So in case if you want to take a decision, inner voice will contradict this decision. You're doing something from within, there will be contradiction. So that is what you mean by the crisis of conscience. Now examples and manifestations you can write. Your examples, whatever examples which you can make, you can write. One of the example which I have given to you now, right? A public servant who's taking any decision by overlooking the larger public interest. So that is an example of crisis of conscience. This is something which we have discussed last week only, so I don't think that we need a separate discussion at this point of time. Just 1 minute. Yeah, any doubts in this citizens charter? We discussed that, and I've given you the components also. Like there will be 4 components like vision, mission, and then the services which is provided, right? Services, which is provided, and the cost of the service, and the standard and quality of the service, the time taken to provide that service. Then also there will be a grievance redressal. Okay, now I've told you the positives and negatives, etc. So the positives include basically it improved the overall service delivery, right? Because people are now aware about the situation, and when people are aware, there will be an accountability. So this lead to accountability because of answerability, and also overall improvement in the it lead to empowerment of the public, empowerment because of awareness and all those things, right? And accountability is something which is very important. Awareness, and when awareness is there, they can effectively utilize the services also. So when they can effectively utilize, then the corruption will also come down. Okay, so I hope accountability will increase, empowerment of people, awareness will increase, effective utilization, corruption, so transparency, all these. And finally, all these lead to good governance. And we have discussed this under good governance only, how to ensure good governance. One of the method was citizens charter, and we have discussed about the Sevottam model, Seva Uttam Seva model, right? Good governance. Okay, now any doubts here with respect to this? I don't think that I need to, or there are I missed this point, 9 principles of citizen charter. If you want, you can just take down this 9 principles of citizen charter. Choice, standards, openness, consultation, fairness, corrections, innovation, efficiency, work with others. Okay, just take down these 9 principles. Otherwise, we are done with this. Any doubt? We have discussed about vision, mission, then service delivery, then the grievance redressal, and expectation from the client also. All these we have discussed. Sevottam, based on 3 pillars. What is Sevottam model? Based on citizen charter, grievance redressal, and also excellence in service. Okay, and we have also discussed about ARC suggested 7 steps to improve this service delivery and citizens charter. So that is there in your notes, so you can see that. I'm not discussing it here. Okay. Yes, 4B. This is also we have discussed when we discussed about Right to Information Act. So one of the hindrances for effective implementation of right to information is related to the Official Secret Act, right? So there is a view that the Official Secret Act is obstacle to the implementation of Right to Information Act. Do you agree with this view? You can agree with this view because we have discussed this already as a hindrance, right? It's actually a colonial time law, basically to protect the information. Okay, it is actually contrary to right to information. Right to information promote transparency. On the other hand, Official Secret Act promotes secrecy. Okay, so basically to protect the confidential documents, this act was there so that, you know, on the security, some issues which is affecting the security and all those things should not be disclosed. Okay, so RTA is actually the opposite. So it acts as a hindrance. So you can see here, the Official Secret Act, it actually promote confidentiality and secrecy. So it is based on secrecy. On the other hand, RTA is focusing on openness and transparency. Okay, so when this is there on one hand and this is there on the other hand, there will be a dilemma. Okay, so it created a dilemma between secrecy versus information sharing. Okay, 5A, direct question. What do you understand by probity in governance? We just discussed this in the last week only. Do you want any explanation here with respect to probity in governance? We have also discussed about good governance. We have discussed about 8 principles of good governance given by World Bank. So what do you mean by this? Probity in governance? It is actually a foundational value of civil service, which deals with extreme level of integrity at the level of governance, right? So here we are talking about procedural integrity in terms of transparency or openness, accountability, all these. When we talk about procedural integrity, it should be related to openness or transparency, accountability, etc., uprightness. And I've told you complete honesty. So when we discuss about integrity, obviously honesty will come. Okay. So it is also understood as being uncorruptible. It's not just not being corrupt, uncorruptible. It is impossible, right? That situation. So World Bank, what we have discussed about World Bank 8 principles also quickly, if you need, we can discuss that. Rule of law, I hope you know about this. People participation. Okay, and then consensus orientation. And then equity means inclusiveness, effective and efficient, responsive, accountability, transparency. So these are the 8 principles which was given by World Bank. Okay. Now, what all things otherwise in general to ensure probity, what can be done? Code of ethics and code of conduct. There is a difference between both of these. We have discussed that. Leadership, proper leadership, and the public servant have to lead from the front. Prevention of corruption, act, effective implementation, and proper conviction, etc. Citizen charter. Citizen charter serve the model because grievance redressal excellence, everything has to be there. Okay. Social audit, or we have discussed about accountability. So social accountability. Okay. These are the ways you can ensure probity in governance. Tell me.
Sir, are you going to discuss the ARC report for summarizing?
No. That you can read. There is nothing to discuss in that. Okay. So far, this is okay. Then emotional intelligence we haven't discussed. I missed that topic. Okay, we will do it now. I'll quickly discuss what is emotional intelligence. I just missed this topic. In fact, I wanted to discuss this yesterday, but yeah, yesterday this is what I wanted to discuss, but we discussed something else. Okay, it's okay. So emotional intelligence means what? It is all about handling the emotions. So see the question. With that itself, we can understand. That question itself will give you some clue. Emotional intelligence is the ability to make your emotions work for you instead of against you, right? So actually, that is what emotional intelligence. Intelligently handling the emotions, not only your emotions, the emotions of others also. Now, if you have emotional intelligence, your emotions will work for you. Otherwise, you will be like, you will respond to any situation, you will become angry, and it will hamper you and your reputation. That's what you mean by this particular sentence. So I'll give you the definition. As per Goldman, emotional intelligence involves the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your emotion as well as emotions of others. So emotional intelligence means emotions plus intelligence. Intelligently manage the emotion, not only your emotion, but the emotions of others. It doesn't mean that you need to play with the emotions of others. Okay, you need to be in a position to manage the emotions of others, and that's what exactly the question is also asking about. So emotional intelligence means basically being intelligent about all these emotions, right? You may be having a positive emotion, negative emotion, you may have hatred, you may have anger, you may have love, you may have compassion. So all these positives and negatives, manage it properly so that the emotions will work for you rather than working against you. Okay. So there may be intelligent person, there may be highly skilled people, but they will ruin everything just because they don't have proper emotional intelligence. If you have emotional intelligence, for example, you may be a good officer, but you are getting angry at the seniors and all, so you will hamper your reputation. So everything, emotional intelligence means handle the emotions any point of time. You may be angry, but you have to handle it in a basic and proper way. Okay, so don't get angry for wrong reasons, wrong place, and wrong time. So if that is happening, then that emotions actually is going to work against you. Okay, so if you are emotionally intelligent person, you can basically understand, control, and manage. Understand, control, manage not only your emotion, but also others' emotion. And you can keep all the disruptive or the negative emotions without coming outside or in check. Okay. And you can channelize the emotions in the right direction. The good emotions, like the positive emotions, channelize in the good direction. So what will happen? It will work for you. Okay. Rather than working against you. So I hope you got the content for writing this answer. There is nothing difficult in this. So you can give examples also, the example which I have given to you, or you can make your own example and you can write. So basically it qualifies for what? I'm mainly talking about you need to have a positive attitude towards everything and be resilient in the face of adversity. You may face problems, but you should be in a position to come back very stronger. So if you're an emotionally strong person, emotionally intelligent person, nothing can harm you actually. Whatever you face, you will be in a position to come out of it. But for that capacity need to be there. What is that? Emotional intelligence. Okay? Or you need to be emotionally strong. Okay. Now these are some statements. It is not necessary that they will give you this name, and it is not necessary that you need to know this name also. An unexamined life is not worth living. So I don't think that I need to explain this. This is something which everybody need to write from your own perspective, and this is going to be a different answer for different people, right? So what do you mean by this? Unexamined life means you're not doing anything, you are not even looking back what all things you have done. Even in your case also, you are studying, but you are not examining what you're studying. Is that going in a good way? Are you able to score the marks in the mock test? Why this mock test and all? For the examination, no, whatever you're doing is correct or not. So you are not scrutinizing the life. If you're not scrutinizing the life means what? Whether you have done in all these years are correct or not, right? What are your strength? What are your weakness? What are the good virtues? What are the vices? You are not able to understand if you're not looking back, and if you're not examining what is actually happening. So that lead to what? That lead to worthless life for not only you, for others, your family, for the society. So it's not worth living. Because you have strength, you have potential, but if you are not able to understand your potential, strength, etc., it's not going to benefit. It may benefit you, it may benefit your family also, because if you can understand your strength and underlying potential, it can save maybe 2, 3, 4 generations. It can help you in a society also. But if you're not doing that, means it is not a life which is worth living. Okay. So not only from the development of self point of view, but total rightness and wrongness of each of your action, you have to evaluate yourself. But all these are in theory, you can say that, but when you're writing, you can write like that. Okay. So it all depends on self regulation, self awareness, etc. All right, so that you should write an answer from your side. If you need an example, you're a civil servant and you are aware about the corruption of the organization in which you are working in, or you are aware about the corruption of the seniors, or simply organization, but you remain silent. By, you are afraid of the personal repercussion that you may going to face. You may be afraid of the alienation that you're going to face in the organization. You may be afraid about the reputation of that organization. But if you are remaining silent, that reputation of the organization will be affected more. The public trust on that organization will come down. So that you can write as an example. Okay, now these two you can, okay, briefly I will mention. Let's see. What is that? A man is but a product of his thoughts. What he think, he become. So, and this is something which you can explain. There is no need to discuss here. It's like your thoughts is molding you, right? And your thoughts will be reflected in your personality, in your actions, and your actions will shape your behavior, and your actions will lead to your future. So even your attitude and everything will be decided by your thoughts. Your thoughts is your actions and your attitude, and that will be your future also. Okay. These are random statement, guys. There is nothing to discuss in the class. It all depends on the individual. How you frame the answer, how I write and how you write will be entirely different. So it will be difficult also to discuss in the class, but it in paper you can write so much of things. Okay. So the second next statement, where there is righteousness in heart, there is beauty in the character. So you see, the seed of peace is coming from where? Individuals' heart. So that lead to beauty in character. And then if there is a beauty in character, there is a harmony in home. And if there is a harmony in home, there is an order in the nation. And then in the world. So this is something again which you need to write from your side. So basically this is talking about what? Education with value system. Okay. So that will shape your character. And then role of home means role of parents basically. So it will ultimately help the entire world or the nation. Okay, you can talk about, if you want, you can talk about example of Mahatma Gandhi, righteous heart, that's why good character, and he went to achieve freedom by using the ideas of satyagraha, non-violence principles, etc. That shows his character, and okay, and then that did good for the nation and also for the world. Not only in India, he did that in South Africa also. That is an example. If you want, you can write, just for the sake of writing an example. You can also write an opposite example. You can talk about Hitler. No this, no this, no this. So entire world is affected because of that. Okay, so where there is a righteousness in the heart, that lead to beauty of character. Now in general also, whenever you're getting an ethics related essay question, there's a very beautiful statement which you can write. This beautiful character lead to harmony in home, and then nation, and then the world. Okay, so that's it for today. We will discuss this case studies tomorrow. So what you need is you just go through the case studies and we will have a discussion, and it will be a two-way discussion, not like what we have done today. So you can also contribute, go with this case study and understand what is there. We'll stop here. See you guys.